Happy Friday, friends. I just wanted to do a quick video about just kind of setting your boundaries, but also communicating them because I think we all can be very sorry, sometimes when I'm channeling, I kind of get some information as I'm talking and I have to stop so that I can wait and get my download. So, I think a lot of us are guilty of expecting somebody else to either be as thoughtful as we are or to be a mind reader. And while that is true in some cases, typically it's really not. And so you need to make sure that if you are needing space, you're actually discussing that. Or if you're needing something from somebody, that you're actually discussing that, because being passive aggressive or being an asshole or ignoring somebody does not tell them what they did. And as much as we want to believe that somebody knows what they did wrong, so often they don't. Or it's never been a problem in the past, or somebody's never spoken up towards them about what they are doing, because people don't like confrontation. But if you want to have a good relationship in any way, you need to be able to communicate your needs, and you need to be able to do that freely. So if you have a friend or a partner that does not respect what you're asking of them, they I don't know how to get through to somebody if you've tried a bunch of times. That's what I tell people: go seek out an actual counselor if you want to work on your relationship. But sometimes you just need to then look in the mirror and say, this is really not working for me, because I should be able to voice my opinion, my thoughts respectfully at any time. And so that's another thing. If you get to the place where you're so angry that as soon as you're able to voice your frustration, you just start yelling, screaming, blaming, name calling, anything like that. Like, that is not constructive. That is not helpful. If you're ever in that place, do not start your conversation there unless you want it to just completely blow out of proportion. Because that's when you know you've been holding things in for way too long. But you need to get to a place where you feel comfortable with them, and when you're in a good place, and like, I know that it sucks, you kind of want to be like, I don't want to start a fight right now, but you got to do it. You need to learn to just face that confrontation fear within yourself, because everybody has it. And I have, like, you'll hear things like, oh, why are you so dramatic? But I'm not dramatic. I'm actually trying to understand for myself where you're coming from. I'm trying to converse with you about what I didn't like about the situation so that maybe we can fix that going forward. And it can be in any type of a relationship. It can be in a friendship, it can be in a workplace relationship, it can be in your relationship, your marriage, if you're dating, like, and these are things that if you're actively dating or if you're newly dating, be so aware of that, and don't let anybody make you feel bad about the things that you need to discuss, but also make sure that you're coming from a good place and not a triggered place when you're having the conversations. It's good to be able to check yourself, and if you can't check yourself, the other person might be checking you. And sometimes you need to just accept you're being checked, and you need to go, you're right, and not get defensive and say, but I'm not angry. Well, did you hear that you just yelled that? You are angry. So just advocate for yourself in every aspect of your life, but especially within communication and especially within boundaries, especially if you've never set boundaries with this person before. I'm starting to set a lot more boundaries in my life than I ever had previously, and some people are angry about it. And when people are angry about it, like, I have compassion and I understand that you're angry that things have changed, but this is not healthy for me in whatever way, and I'm now doing something about it. And so I'm sorry that you don't appreciate that, but I need to do what I need to do for myself. You are number one. You need to be selfish. You need to be selfless too. Hi, Piper. But self-care requires you to at least be a little selfish, because if you don't ask somebody to treat you a certain way, if you don't tell somebody kind of what your expectation is of a situation, you can't be upset when it doesn't go your way. I think so many people have outcomes in their head so often, and that could be the other person, that could be you, it depends. But, like, I know that I have some friends that, or in the past at least for sure, that always wanted to call me and only dump on me. And you probably have a friend like that yourself. And you love them so much, you really do, but you start to realize at a certain point how much the negativity is affecting you, how much you maybe start to dislike spending time with this person, and you just kind of have to come to that realization. But then at that point, you need to do something about it, because if you don't do something about it, you allow it. And so at this point in my life, I love people, but I am selfish too. And so when somebody is trying to take too much of me, and I've already said to them, I do not have this in me to give to you, I'm going to get actually angry. Like, not angry, but I'm going to then become a little more assertive than I would have been originally, because you need to be assertive. But, like, it's okay to kind of jokingly talk about things as long as people take it seriously. They don't always. And so if you get to that point, you need to reiterate your point again, as hard as it is. And I really wish that people would not make us repeat ourselves, but we have to. Because, again, if we aren't communicating that it's an issue, we cannot really blame the other person. And that's where things kind of go off the rails 90% of the time, is that nobody talked about it. And then all of a sudden, you have your story, they have their story. They're different than each other. So that's where you always get, like, your story's here, her story's there. The truth is somewhere in the middle, because you need to understand that the other person feels however they feel too. And so be respectful about that, but at the same time, don't allow it to go back to what you were unhappy with. You need to really put your foot down and say, I'm making changes for the better, and if you want to come along with me, please do, but respect that this is how I expect to be treated. And if they cannot do that for you, then unfortunately it looks like they're not moving on to the next chapter with you. But if you're listening to this, you likely have at least one book that you need to really look at, or one chapter in your life that you really need to look at, and decide what you're going to do with it. So my number one is always talk to the person about it. If you think that it's salvageable and that you would like to salvage it, talk to the person and be able to say, this is a difficult conversation. It's hard for me to say, but this is how things will go whenever we speak sometimes, and that doesn't make me feel good. And so I don't think that this is your fault. I am not blaming you. Please understand that. But I am going to say that we both have parts in this, and we both need to correct them or we cannot continue going forward. And I just wish you all the luck in the world, and I give you lots of strength going forward to hit these situations head on. Don't ignore them. Stop ghosting people just because you don't like to talk about the hard things. It's difficult, but you can't really have a relationship if you're not going to communicate. So get your communication tools out. Mostly that is your voice, but for a lot of people, writing things down is so therapeutic for them. Or when I can speak something out loud, that's when I usually get my own answers, and I don't have to go to somebody else about it if I'm able to. And if you need to vent to your friend, first of all, ask them, do you have the ability to take this on right now? If you're able. Sometimes, honestly, it will just come flying out, and so you really don't think about asking permission. But I like to try to ask people, can you handle this right now? Because I just need to vent. And you need to tell somebody very specifically, I just need to vent. Or you need to say, I'm looking for solutions. Can you help me? Because for me, I'm a solution-based person. And so as soon as you start talking to me about your problem, if you have not said, I just want to vent, my head is already going and I'm already thinking about like, oh, this happened to me. And so I could suggest trying this. Because I know you're not always looking for an answer. Sometimes you're like, you know what? Things fucking suck and I just need to talk about it really quick. And other times you're like, you know what? I'm in a mess. I don't know how to get out of it, but maybe you do. Can we just talk this through? And so I think it's really important to let somebody know when you want to vent that you're just looking to vent. But also, please check yourself. Have you vented about this same fucking thing so many times that nobody wants to hear about it anymore? Because that means you have a problem that you're not fixing and you just continue to bitch and bitch and bitch about it, and nobody wants to hear about it anymore. And so at that point, you know what? Go get a professional because your friends don't want to hear about it anymore. Or do something about it. And that is the hardest thing, but it's the biggest truth bomb that I'm going to say to you. Do something about it. When you have something to complain about 24/7, there's something you can do about it. If it is your marriage, you go to a counselor, you talk it out. If you don't think it's salvageable, then you leave it. The end. Marriages are not something that are like till death do us part. I'm sorry. Some people they are, and that is fantastic. But for most people, that's actually not the way. It's just not reasonable to expect that one partner will fit you your whole entire life, because we grow and change all the time. And if you're not growing and changing all the time, you're sitting stagnant. And if you are happy, then I am so happy for you. But if you feel yourself being stagnant, feeling stagnant, wanting to move, do something. And so that could literally just be going to a counselor to be able to talk it out. That could be just talking to your friend about it that you have never opened up to about it. That could just be so many things. That could be writing in a journal about it. I'm not saying take huge action. I'm just saying, like, acknowledge this. Acknowledge how you feel. Acknowledge the situations and see what changes then, because you need to really consult inside of yourself and be like, how do I truly feel about this? Not the okay, I'm telling other people I am. Not the fine that I'm telling other people that I am. Like, how do I truly feel about this? And so I want you to really sit down and think about things. If something's really bothering you, try to deal with it yourself, aside from a good friend to talk to or like a counselor to actually visit, because everybody's got their own shit going on anyway. Like, most people don't have the capacity to also take on your problems. And so, where we talked about boundaries, that means setting boundaries for yourself too. I'm going to leave it at that for today, but I hope that this was helpful. Um, well, I won't. I'll leave it at one more thing. That is boundaries. This little nugget of wisdom to take with you on your journey is closing your door is much different than locking your door. And so, if you're at a point in your life where you cannot handle what's going on, close your door. Just close your door. You know what? People can knock if they want to. You don't have to let them in. You didn't lock anybody or anything out, but you're saying, I need a break right now. Please just leave me alone. So, closing your door is much different than locking it. Don't let anybody tell you that that's not okay, because that is more than okay. You know if you need to close or lock your door, nobody else does. And unfortunately, it's just like children and or animals. And if you go to the bathroom and somebody is very needy and dependent on you, they're there and they're trying to get in. And you're like, I'm trying to take care of myself right now. Leave me alone. And so it's closing the door, it's not locking it. But just like those situations, if somebody really relies on you very heavily, they're knocking at that door, they're banging at that door, they're trying to get in that door, and it's up to you on whether or not you let them in. And for me, I've needed to close a few doors, and I open them and I have a quick visit when I can. But other than that, I'm like, this door feels better closed right now. I'll get to a point where I'm happy to have an open door policy with you, but for now, I need a break. Please respect that. So, respect yourself and what you are asking for. For me, my body's asking for a break. And so, I've set those boundaries out with my friends and family and said, I cannot talk every day. I cannot even handle a conversation some days whatsoever. It's too overwhelming. My pain level is high or my energy levels are low. And so you need to just be very clear with your people about it. And those people that do not respect the boundaries that you set out, screw them. Seriously. Like, some of them are your friends and you love them. And so for me, I've just closed the door. But I don't give a shit if they're mad at me, because this is what I need for myself. And it's different when you're at full capacity and you choose to ignore to help another. It's an entirely different thing when you are barely hanging on yourself and somebody else is like, but I need you. No. Too bad. Too bad. I love you, but please help yourself. So, those are the things that I will end this video off with. I hope that you all have a beautiful day. Take it very highly into consideration. Some situations you're the problem, and you will figure that out very easily and very quickly, and you'll say, you know what, actually, I've never voiced my opinion on that. I better say something. Otherwise, I understand now why this person thinks it's always okay. And in those situations where it's not you, figure out what you need to do, but take action, because continuing to allow somebody else to do what they're doing over and over and over again when it's making you unhappy is allowing it, and that's your fault. Sorry, not sorry. Love you guys. Many blessings. Bye.